So lottery opens March 7th. I think it's 11 a.m. Central, closes March 24th. That's your window for submission, and that's it. There is no leeway typically. Has there been leeway in the past? Sometimes when the system crashes, they will allow an extra couple days for registration, but I wouldn't bank on that. I know a lot of times when people do registration, they want to just like get it out of the way, shoot it in and get it done as quickly as possible. My experience with the system has been, I try not to register anyone the first day because then you're racing with everyone else. The system's just going to be crashing repeatedly. I usually like to wait a day or two to start my registrations and then just knock them all out at the same time. The registration process itself is very simple. The petitioner they create a USCIS account. They either link that to an attorney they're working with or they proceed on their own. The registrations informations are filled in for the people that they're going to be representing in the lottery. You kick it back to the employer to confirm the information is correct. And then once that is done, you move forward with the actual lottery process, which will happen the first week of April. And that's when the actual selections begin to come in. And so that's where we figure out who's filing and what the window is for filing. And I know everybody's always asking, like, did my case get selected? Like, do we know? Have we got confirmation? You need to understand they trickle out the notices. They don't fire them all out the same day. So the way the lottery system works is it's run, results come out, and then results begin to incrementally come out over the next couple of days. USCIS will notify everyone when they have completed the lottery process. And so at that time, that's when everyone gets their filing window and people file cases and we see what gets approved, what gets denied, who doesn't file. And then after that process is usually where there's a determination about whether or not there's a second lottery. So usually it's going to be that first week of April. Once you get past that, typically, unless there's some sort of system glitch, that's when you're going to see results. That's when you'll actually get selection notices. The selection notices do go to the petitioners. As a beneficiary, you're not entitled to a selection notice. You don't get some sort of cool ping from USCIS that says your case got picked. So it is dependent on the petitioner. That being said, it is my opinion that employees wait for the process to conclude before contacting your employer. Your employer is probably going through the same process with everyone else that they registered for. They would probably prefer, or their HR or their legal rep would prefer to send out one email to everyone that was selected rather than do it in these small batches to appease people who want to know whether or not they were selected. So I would just say, pay attention to USCIS's websites, their notifications, and see when the lottery is closed. After the lottery is closed, wait a day or two. If you still haven't heard anything, that's probably when you want to reach out and see if your case was selected or not. Yeah, so I think for the actual approvals, the BFJO, which is the acronym that we're all now using for Bonafide job offer, that's going to come into play here for the first time in CAP. So what that basically means is USCIS has codified the notion that you must present a bona fide job offer at the time of filing to establish that the person will be performing a specialty occupation. What that means is if you are working in-house, you'll need to be able to present documentation as an employer that there is work available for the individual to perform. If you are working off-site, say at a third-party location for an end client, you'll likely need to produce documentation that there is a need for the individual. So that need will be, contracts, work orders, vendor letters, client letters. Furthermore, if you are working at an in-client site, USCIS has now created a test, basically a system, to determine whether or not it's the end client or the petitioner who is the one that can make the determination as to whether or not the position qualifies as a specialty occupation. In the event where the end client is the entity who is deemed the one responsible for this, My assumption is you're going to need to get some sort of client letter or documentation that pretty explicitly states what the position requirements are. That test, in my opinion, is going to be completely bastardized by USCIS. I don't have faith that their officers are competent enough to make a determination as to whether or not someone is coming in to fill a temporary position or is filling a full-time position where they are a member of the organization chart of the company. The officers have never done this before, and they don't know what they're doing. There will be problems with adjudications as a result of that. So all that being said, I think those are going to be the biggest issues to highlight for this year. The idea that you can file, like let's say you want to bring someone in and be a software engineer, but you don't actually have something for them to do, like a project to put them on. And your thought process is, I'll file the H1B in the lottery, and then by the time we get to October 1st, I'll find a project to put them on. That's going to be really difficult. I think unless you're in a situation where your petition just kind of gets through and gets approved without issue, you're probably looking at a request for evidence that asks for that specific examples of the Bonafide job offer. So as a result of that, I think that those changes are probably going to, I think those changes are probably going to result in an uptick in denials this year until employers get used to the process. There is obviously litigation on that could come into play, but whether or not that litigation is finalized at this point or a decision has been made, we don't know. So for now, this is the world that we have to exist in. So I think those are going to be the big issues. Will be those: the specialty occupation at a third-party client site and the Bonafide job offer.